Hello there everyone, and welcome to another emulator tutorial. So the emulator we're going to go with today is Citra. Now when you download Citra, I'll quickly show you. If we type in Citra here, you can download the emulator from this website. You just click on the download section, and you then click this for Windows or this for other platforms. When you have the exe downloaded, basically double click it or open it up. There'll be two versions that the exe will ask you to install. There is Canary and what is known as Nightly version, or Citra Nightly. Both versions are very good. Essentially, I prefer to use Nightly, however, because it's the most stable version. I did try Canary and it was not very good for me for some reason. It had a couple of hitches, so I ended up switching to the Nightly version, and I prefer to use that. But it's best that you install both, and then you can figure out which one works best for you, or maybe if you're lucky you can use both versions, which is fine. So once you've got it downloaded, simply and installed, of course, you then just simply open it up. Usually after the installation wizard, you can ask the wizard to open it up pretty much after it's done. So as you can see here, I've got a bunch of games here that I managed to get a hold of. I will link where I got most of these in the description of this video. I can't say on the video for obvious reasons. So when you obtain a game, there's two things that you'll want to remember. If it's a game that was on cartridge on the 3DS, you download what is known as a decrypted ROM, essentially. The reason is because decrypted ROMs allow themselves to be played through the Citra. Essentially, there's no issues. If you try to load an encrypted ROM, it won't work because there's still security encryption. Now, there is a way to decrypt encrypted ROMs. However, I don't know the method very well. There is ways and means to do it if you look around online. However, usually 9 times out of 10 in the place that I've just provided in the link below, you can get your hands on decrypted ROMs no problem. Now, the other format that you will get ROMs in, other than decrypted, is also known as the CIA format, but we'll get onto that in a moment. So once you've downloaded your ROMs, I have two here for test purposes. I have Tetris Ultimate, which is obviously a Tetris game. This was on cartridge, and this has come in a decrypted format when I got a hold of it. Simply right click and extract. You can also use 7-zip if you so desire. I prefer to use the inbuilt unzip since I can use that option. So you simply unzip it, and then you have the game here. The game will be a 3DS file. It'll actually say the type in there. So let me quickly load up the file just for test. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Accidentally clicked on the a tab. So as you can see here, we've got Tetris Ultimate. I'm just now going to load it up. Might take a while, depending on what kind of ROM it is. I don't want to really activate the Street Pass, so I don't really use that with this. And as you can see here, by Ubisoft and Tetris, we actually have Tetris playing. Now, the one thing that I can mention as well, let me just pause the emulation, is that when you have, actually best if I stop it first. When you've installed it and stuff, and you have a game to play with and whatnot, you might want to test your hardware out first. So, to do that, you want to go to your configuration settings, and then you go to graphics and audio, Those are the two main factors that are going to have anything to do with how Citra runs. Obviously you'll have your stuff here, and then you have your enhancements. I have all of mine enabled because my computer's able to run them. If you're having stuttering or issues, play around with the settings until the game starts running fine just for you. In another case, if you're having issues, then just play around until you get it right. I usually have my internal resolution set to native x2. I mean, it doesn't look stupidly magnificent when I'm playing stuff, but it looks nice either way. And plus, I prefer performance over than shiny visuals any day. But if you've got a slightly beastier machine, you can do that. So when you've got all of that done, play around with these. Some games, by the way, do require some of these settings to be turned on. There's a couple of games that do require them, but just, play around. Your mileage may vary depending on what game it is and what how you're able to run it and stuff. Also, audio does have some level of percentage when it comes to how things run, especially with audio stretching and stuff like that. Anyway, if you want to copy the settings that I have for my emulator and maybe go with that, I suppose, or my settings on the emulator, then you can. I'm just going to leave these up a bit longer, so if you need to pause the video and check them, you can. Because I know some people prefer to use settings of people on YouTube who show them off and whatnot, so. Also, you can do your controls and all that stuff pretty easily. You can plug in an Xbox One controller and map every button that you want to map to. So next, we're gonna load up the game that I just that I just closed, just to make sure that it's testing fine and whatnot. So yeah, Ubisoft, Tetris. It's a puzzle game. It's simple and easy. I just want to quickly run it as a test to show things. We'll quickly do a marathon. I'm not going to play this for very long, let's put it that way. There's my profile. And there you go, I'm using the D-pad to put pieces in place. And I've just done a nice line there. So yeah, as you can see, this runs absolutely a-okay. No issues with this whatsoever. Should we see if I can make one more lion? This'll do. There we go. That's enough Tetris for now. But like, yeah, you can see it's running fine, and that's all I need to show. So next, the most important thing, after we've done the game and stuff, you want to get your 3DS file, put it in a ROMs folder somewhere that you want to keep all your ROMs at. So next is CIA files. Now these are usually files that are downloadable from the eShop. They also stretch to, I believe, Virtual Console stuff and 3D ports of classic games that were thrown on there. For example, 3D Kirby, for example, was like ported onto the 3DS. It's basically the NES game, but remade nicely, in a sense. There's a lot of classic games that were basically put through the 3D treatment, and you can do that by downloading them in CIA format. Just for test purposes, I have 10-in-1 arcade collection here. So all you want to do is, when you've downloaded it, for some reason Windows picks this up as a playable file for my video editor, which is interesting. I don't know what it will show up for you guys if you have something else installed. It might be just a regular folder, it might be Windows Media Picture or something, I don't know. Either way, what you'll want to do is you want to highlight it, right click, and make sure you have 7-zip installed. I will provide a link to get a hold of 7-zip installed on your computer in the description below as well. It's a free program. I prefer to use it rather than any other zip extraction program that costs money essentially. 7-zip is just free and easy, and it's a great program. So you'll want to go into 7-zip and then click extract files, then press OK. Double click, and boom, the file is now a 3ds file. So let's, for all purposes again, you want to load file this time. Now one thing most people do fall for sometimes is installing CIA. You don't want to do that with CIA files, it just won't work, at least not on the nightly version. As for Canary, I'm not too sure, because I don't really use Canary version that much at all. I ended up not having it because my computer couldn't, it could run games, but it was stuttering, it was just having a lot of issues. I just came to the conclusion that Canary was not very stable on this computer. So I'm going to load up the game that we just extracted, which is the 10-in-1 arcade. As you can see, it's now playing. GameLion made this apparently. So these, I'm assuming these are like classic games that you can get off other systems, but with different names. Let's play Special Delivery. It looks like a Mario clone. It literally kind of is. Sort of. Except he's walking right all the time. So if Mario became an endless run, it'd be like this, I suppose. Actually, didn't Nintendo do that? I'm sure they did. Anyway, as you can see, it's working fine. And then we just stop the emulation. So, you're probably going to say now, oh, but you're playing a lot of 2D games, and those are very easy to run. That's true. They're very easy to run, so I will quickly show you how well Citra does run stuff. Now, another thing is, you'll see the compatibility things here when you put your games in a directory. You can set up the directory by just clicking this and then putting the ROMs down where you want them. So as you can see, some say okay, some say great, some say not tested, and some of them say perfect. Perfect is fine, obviously, because it runs flawless. Great means it's going to run fantastic with, yeah, maybe some small issues, but you can do it. And last but not least, okay means you can play the game, and it'll, you can play it from start to finish, but you might have to do a few workarounds. It's funny really, because the other day when I loaded up this, it said that Rune Factory was perfect, and now all of a sudden it's okay, which is interesting. I think these compatibilities change every so often, I'm not too sure, I've never really looked into it too much. But as long as everything is okay, great or perfect, you're fine either way. If it's not tested, you're probably going to want to have to test it yourself by loading it up and seeing if your emulator runs it fine. I mean, I managed to get a copy of Samurai Warriors for the 3DS, and unfortunately the game ran fine, but when it came to cutscenes between story missions, the game would basically become a slideshow. Unfortunately, I found that completely unplayable. I don't really have all day to sit there watching a gradual slideshow of cutscenes that are happening by 1 frame per second. So I'm going to quickly show you the power of Citra, pretty much by using a 3D game. I always think Ocarina of Time is the perfect bench tester when it comes to this kind of thing, especially on the 3DS. I always refer to this game as like the gold standard when it comes to testing Citra. As you can probably just hear, I had a bit of an audio bounce there. My audio is not the greatest, I do have audio stretching problems sometimes, but that's fine, I can put up with it. So I'm going to quickly load the game up, and here you can see Link running around. As you can see, the game runs perfectly fine for me. In fact, when I was playing this, I had barely any slowdown whatsoever, apart from when I changed screens and things would load up, specifically. But other than that, this works just fine. I'm going to leave this running because I always love the nighttime sound effects in Ocarina. Naturally, you can change your layouts to which way you want them. Already Navi's bugging us. But I have the small screen down here. I mean, you can change it to have 50-50 with the screens, or you can have the top LCD showing and the bottom LCD not showing, or vice versa. A lot of the LCD layouts and options are very reminiscent of DSMUE, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, they're both DS consoles, so with the dual screens, so it does make sense. Naturally, you can save state stuff. You can put cheats on. This game, or rather this emulator, has every option that most emulators have. There's even an option of multiplayer, so if you've got a few friends and you want to do some, I don't know, Mario Kart lobbies or something, you can do that. I don't know the ins and outs of the setting up multiplayer and how to make that stuff function over the internet, but I'm sure there's a very in-depth video somewhere on YouTube that'll go through it on how to set things up. Of course, you've got tools. There's not too many of them. You've got like play, record, and playback, which is pretty good if you're looking at something you need to like rewind or whatever. You can do frame advance. As for movie, I don't know what format it's shot in. I'm going to assume that it's MP4, but I could be wrong. Screenshots are probably going to be JPEGs or bitmap, maybe. You can also dump the video as well, which is a nice feature. And you can also do the frame advancing. What that'll do is you can then advance the frame bit by bit, like that. So if you're, looking for a specific spot to do a glitch or something, you can do that, I guess. Just going to pause the emulation. Turn off the frame advancing. There we go. So yeah, most features that are in this, that you get in most emulators, especially like DSMUE, most of the features are in here, which is pretty nice. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the Citra tutorial. I'll leave a link in the description for everything you can find, including the emulator, the library of games you can get a hold of, and last but not least, 7-zip, where you can extract CIA files. Right then, that's going to be it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and until then, ciao for now.